My parents announced at their anniversary dinner that the following week, the entire family was going to Hawaii for another celebration. Everyone was delighted. Then I asked, "What time is the departure?" My father replied, "You don't need to know. You're not part of this. You can stay and look after all the children." That's when I dropped the bomb and their faces paled instantly. I was in the kitchen, apron splattered with grease, flipping burgers on the grill while the house buzzed with activity. My parents' 40th wedding anniversary celebration, Ed and Carol's, was in full swing. A boisterous affair held in a backyard crammed with relatives. My hands moved swiftly, preparing food nonstop, while my siblings, Mark, Liz, and Jean, loitered at a picnic table, laughing with their spouses and letting the children run wild. I'd been at it since dawn, setting up chairs, stringing lights, and chasing after my nieces and nephews who mistook the cake for a punching bag. At 35, I'm the eldest and have always been the one to orchestrate things. It had always been this way. The din reached a peak when my father slammed a beer bottle against a fork, like a king about to pronounce a decree. My mother leaned into him, a broad smile on her face, and everyone fell silent. "We have an announcement," he said, his gruff voice, a lifetime of issuing orders echoing in the words. "Next week, we're taking the whole family to Hawaii. Another celebration, but with sun and sand." A roar of joy erupted. Mark shouted, Lisa clapped, and the children shrieked about surfing. I felt a thrill of anticipation, too. Hawaii was a dream, a respite from the relentless routine. I finished flipping the last burger, wiped my hands, and approached them closer. "What time is the departure?" I asked casually, as if just checking my schedule. My father turned. His gray eyes narrowed, as if I'd posed an absurd question. "You don't need to know," he said. "It's obvious for everyone else. You aren't part of this. Stay here and look after the children." My mother chuckled dryly and waved a dismissive hand. My stomach plummeted. The table fell silent for a moment. Then Mark muttered something about flights, and the murmur resumed. Nobody looked at me. Nobody cared. I stood there, spatula in hand, feeling the heat rising up my neck. After all I'd done, years fixing their messes, working construction to pay the bills when my father was laid off, caring for my siblings' children so they could live comfortably, I was not considered part of the family. I tossed the spatula onto the grill, grabbed my jacket from the porch, and walked out. Lisa even shouted something behind me, but I didn't stop. The sliding glass door slammed shut behind me, and I strode firmly across the gravel until I reached my truck. I drove to my apartment, a cramped one-bedroom filled with memories of them. Tools I used to help my father renovate the garage. A toy car a child of a friend had forgotten there. I sank into the couch, staring at the wall. 35 years of life, and all I'd given was lost for them. College, travel, a life. In return, I had gotten this. Nothing. A babysitter. Anger surged, hot and fast, but beneath it was something else. Exhaustion. A deep-seated exhaustion. I couldn't take it anymore. I pondered the Hawaiian beaches I'd never see, my mind conjuring a coastal town just hours away, brimming with docks and waves. A vivid memory surfaced, of the freedom I'd felt there years prior. The feeling resonated deeply. In that place, no one needed me. No one knew me. Precisely what I craved. I didn't hesitate. I pulled a travel bag from a closet, stuffing in jeans, t-shirts, and worn work boots. No plan, only impulse. I gathered my meager savings, the fruits of extra hours, and checked the bus schedule on my phone. A 5 a.m. departure was available, before the world fully awoke. My finger lingered over Sophie's number. She's 16, the youngest, the only one who seemed to grasp my unspoken desires, yet I resisted. She'd try to dissuade me, a luxury I couldn't afford. The clock ticked past 3 a.m. I tossed the bag over my shoulder, bolted the door, and walked to the bus station. The crisp air, the deserted streets pressed against my chest like betrayal, but I kept walking. The enormous gray bus appeared, and I handed the driver my ticket, who made no inquiries. I settled into a back seat near a window, watching my town recede as we departed. Gas stations, hardware stores, the house where I grew up, all vanished into the darkening landscape. I leaned my head against the glass, my jaw clenched. They'd notice my absence eventually, when someone needed a diaper change or a quick snack. My father's words echoed, "Aren't you part of us? Fine. If I wasn't part of them, I'd find something else, something of my own." The bus carried me towards an unfamiliar city, and for the first time in years, I felt alive. Fear, yes, but also a spark of awakening. I didn't look back. Dawn broke as the bus braked, and I stepped off in the coastal town. My boots thudded on the pavement, the bag heavy on my shoulder. I gazed out at the vast expanse, the docks stretching towards the water, towering cranes, the muted rumble of unseen boats, the vibrant energy, a stark contrast to the silent confines of my former life. I had no idea where to begin, but this was exactly what I sought. No one there knew me, not the man who fixed everything. I was just Felix. I'd figure it out. On my first day, I found a small room for rent, a cubicle above a bar throbbing with music all night. The owner, a man with a steel gray beard, didn't ask for references. He simply took my money and handed over the key. Simple. A mattress, a sink, a window overlooking rusted fire escapes. It was mine. I tossed the bag on the floor, sat on the bed, and processed my actions. I'd left without a goodbye, without a note. They'd likely awaken, unaware of my absence initially, and I wondered how long it would take for them to miss me. The next day, I set out to find work. My savings wouldn't last long, and I wasn't keen on returning to my previous life. At a small cafe near the harbor, a place filled with fishermen and delivery drivers, I secured a job. The manager offered me a position, an opportunity to begin anew, a chapter that began with a step away from everything that had been and a step toward something unknown. My first coffee service shift was a chaotic whirlwind. Trays tumbled, orders got mixed up, and customers grumbled. I'd never served coffee before, and the experience was overwhelming. Yet, despite the initial chaos, I persevered. No one berated me for forgotten diapers or late school pickups. It was tough work, but it was my problem, not theirs. It was there, amidst the clatter and confusion, that I met Sheila. She manned the cash register, a fountain of sharp opinions and quick retorts, her voice cutting through the surrounding din. "Raw talent," she remarked, chuckling at my struggles with a latte. I countered, "At least I don't terrify the customers." She laughed, a genuine, unforced laugh, not the polite, placating chuckle of my mother. Sheila was different. She didn't tread on eggshells around me, nor did she expect heroic acts. She punched the clock and offered practical advice about the city, suggesting streets to avoid after dark. I listened more than I spoke, but it was a comfort to have someone acknowledge my presence, to feel seen. Days blurred into near-identical routines. Work, home, sleep, city exploration when sleep evaded me. The city's raw beauty drew me in. The brutal honesty of the docks, the waves crashing against the piers. One late afternoon, I found myself in front of a pawn shop, its window display overflowing with trinkets. A weathered, slightly damaged old camera caught my eye. I could afford it. I'd messed with a camera in high school, fantasizing about more than simply being the family's jack-of-all-trades. Impulsively, I bought it. That night, I carried the camera to the waterfront and captured a picture of the city's skyline against the ocean. The image was blurry, yet I kept it. It felt like a piece of my life, finally stirring. There was still no contact from my family. I could picture them, Dad yelling about lost luggage, Mom distressed over forgotten sunscreen, Mark and Lisa arguing over who would drive to the airport. Perhaps Sophie noticed my absence. She was perceptive, but no one reached out. I convinced myself that it didn't matter. I was free, crafting something, however imperfectly. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed. Sophie's name flashed on the screen. Hesitantly, I answered. "Felix, where are you?" Her voice was low, concerned. "Mom's freaking out about this trip and you've vanished." I leaned against the chipped sink, staring at the ceramic. I had to go. I spoke softly. I couldn't stay. She remained silent for a moment before replying, "They're angry, but I miss you. Please come back." My chest tightened. She was the only person I truly cared about, the only one whose disappointment I dreaded. "No," I said, softer than I intended. "Not now." She sighed, and the call ended. I dropped the phone, my hands clenched. Guilt gnawed at me, but I pushed it away. I had made my choice. The next day, I returned to the docks. Morning light bathed the scene as boats unloaded their cargo, workers shouted commands. The photos weren't perfect, but they were mine. Sheila saw me with the camera at work, her eyebrow raised. "I hadn't imagined you as an artistic soul, nor as a meddler," I replied. She laughed, and I felt a crack in the wall I'd built. Perhaps I could embrace this life, be someone else here in this city, rough, noisy, and unforgiving. My soul wasn't yet demanded. Lying in bed, the city's rumble echoing beneath me, I mused on Hawaii. They should be departing soon, or at least attempting to. I wondered if they'd miss me when they held their children. Probably not, but I had this. The camera, the work, a start, nothing grand, but enough to keep me afloat. 2 weeks I'd spent in the city when it happened. My routine was settling in. I'd stumble to the coffee shop, serve the regulars, dodge Sheila's pointed remarks. I'd even begun to enjoy the rush, the mental distraction it provided. The camera became my escape after work, capturing the city's hidden corners, the cranes at dusk, the frothing waves. I wasn't great, but I was improving. My old house felt like a ghost, fading away with each passing day. No one called. I figured they were too occupied with Hawaii to care. Then, the night before their trip, my phone rang. I was sprawled on my mattress, surrounded by photographs I'd taken that day. My father's number flashed. My stomach churned. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something urged me to answer. "Felix, where the heck are you?" He barked, his voice rough, as if I'd neglected a chore rather than vanished entirely. "The kids need watching tomorrow, and you're MIA. What kind of nonsense is this?" I gripped the phone tighter. 2 weeks vanished, and he called only to demand I babysit. I swallowed hard, feeling the anger I'd suppressed welling up. "I'm not there," I said, calm but firm. "I'm gone," he grumbled, apparently missing the point. "We're going to Hawaii, and you're playing these games." That's when my mother joined the call. I heard her wresting the phone from his grasp. Her voice, sharp as a razor, sliced through the air. "Felix, you're being selfish. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" After all they'd done, I almost laughed out loud. Years spent bailing them out, fixing roofs, paying Mark's debts, looking after their grandchildren. And now they had the audacity to turn things upside down. I paced my tiny room, letting decades of pent-up feelings spill out. I had been their doormat since 18. I dropped out of college to pay their bills. I'd bled for their comfort. And now they declared I was no longer family. "I'm out," I declared. "You manage the children yourselves." My mother gasped, then countered, "Ungrateful. That's what you are. You'll regret this." I heard my father muttering something in the background, but I didn't wait. I hung up, tossed the phone into the sink, and stood there, my chest rising and falling. My hands trembled, yet I felt a lightness, as if I'd cut the rope strangling me. Sleep eluded me. My mind raced with scenarios. My father fuming, my mother summoning my siblings to blame me. Sophia messaged me. "The trip's a disaster. No one knows what to do with the kids. They're fighting terribly." I stared at her message, picturing the pandemonium. Mark shouting at Lisa, Jay complaining about canceled plans, my father scowling. They'd made their world revolve around me, and now it was crumbling. I let it crumble. I didn't reply at work. The next day, I flew through the motions, serving coffee, nearly burning it. My hand hovered over the vaporizer. I barely registered the requests. Sheila, noticing my preoccupied demeanor, nudged me as she attended to a man in a jacket reeking of fish. "You look like you punched someone," she said. I shrugged, replying, "Family matters." I avoided specifics. But after closing time, she cornered me near the storage cabinets. "There's a photography class tonight," she announced. "A friend of mine's teaching it. You should go," she urged. "Get your head out of the clouds." I wasn't keen on socializing, but her smile was hard to resist. "Fine," I conceded, retrieving my camera. The class was in a warehouse, a dozen people equipped with sophisticated tripods and cameras. I felt somewhat out of place with my second-hand camera, purchased from a pawn shop, but the instructor, a man named P, didn't seem to notice. He spoke about composition, about finding narratives in everyday scenes. We ventured out for nighttime photography at the docks, illuminated by streetlights. I captured a compelling image of dock workers unloading crates, the shadows stretching long on the ground. P observed, "You have a good eye. Keep going. It might not be much, but it resonates with me." I had never truly excelled in anything that wasn't geared toward their approval. Back in my room that night, I listened to the city's sounds. Sophia messaged again. They'd canceled the Hawaii trip. My father wouldn't pay for a babysitter, and no one else stepped up. I chuckled, imagining their frustration, my mother's irritated expression, my father's angry red neck. They expected me to yield, as always, but I remained resolute, building something for myself. My camera lay on my pillow, a tangible weight, a source of comfort. I thought of Sheila, her refusal to treat me as invisible, and P's words about discovering narratives. Maybe I could be more than just a doormat for them. I got up, reviewing my photos. Dock workers, a seagull in flight. Not perfect, but mine. I took them without anyone dictating my position or adjustments. My phone buzzed again. Sophia wanted me to call. I almost did. For her. But not yet. One day, she'd understand. I set my phone aside, grabbed my camera. The next day, I'd photograph the sunrise waves. They'd crash the same whether my family issues were resolved or not. And I'd be there, unburdened by anyone's problems but my own. 3 months passed in the city. I'd established a routine. Coffee shifts, late nights with my camera, a life that revolved around no one but myself. The tiny apartment above the bar still resonated with the city's sounds, but I'd grown accustomed to it. I even found a sense of comfort in the muffled hum, a buffer for my inner thoughts. My work was becoming more consistent. I could now brew a decent latte without cursing. Sheila was a frequent companion, her sharp insights and ideas as constant as the weekly photography sessions. I even started compiling a portfolio filled with raw images of the docks and the workers, images P thought held potential. And I began to believe it too. One day, while behind the counter, cleaning the espresso machine, the door opened. There stood my father. Gray hair, thinner frame, shoulders slumped. The same unapproachable demeanor he'd carried since my childhood. My hands froze mid-clean. He looked around the space, located me, and he strode in confidently, like the undisputed owner of the place. Customers glanced up, then quickly returned to their coffees. Sheila, behind the counter, raised an eyebrow but remained silent. Felix, his voice low and rough, said, "We need to talk." My jaw tightened. I hadn't heard from him since the call, since the disastrous venture had fallen apart. And now, out of the blue, he was intruding on my space. I gestured for him to go to the back, near the refrigerators, where the appliances' hum would muffle our conversation. "What do you want?" I asked, arms crossed. He shifted, appearing uneasy, as if unaccustomed to seeing me so firm. "You disappeared," he said, "leaving us high and dry. The trip is ruined. Without you, the family's struggling." I remained silent, waiting for more. He scratched his neck, muttering, "I didn't think you'd really stay away. Look, I'm sorry for what I said at the party, but we need you back." His gaze filled with expectation, as if to erase everything that had transpired. I let out a short, bitter laugh. "You need me, right? That's why you're here, isn't it? Not because you care, but because the trip failed and the kids are a handful." He recoiled, his face flushing crimson. "Careful, boy. We raised you." "I raised you," I retorted, my voice rising. "You leaned on me. I was 18 when I started paying your bills, 25 when I rebuilt the garage for free, and 35 when you said I wasn't part of the family anymore. I'm not your solution anymore." He opened his mouth but quickly closed it, clenching his fist. For the first time, there was no response. I took a deep breath, stepped back a little, and spoke in a calmer tone. "Sit down, have a coffee." He hesitated, then slumped into a chair near the window. I grabbed 2 cups, poured black coffee without cream, just the way he liked it, and sat opposite him. He looked at the mug, then at me. "What is this?" he grumbled, nodding toward the camera slung over my shoulder. I pushed the camera towards him, showing pictures of the pier, a fisherman hauling in nets. "That's what I'm doing," I said to myself. He narrowed his eyes, silently studying the images. Then he returned the camera. "I didn't know you enjoyed this," he said, slightly awkwardly. "You never asked," I retorted. An awkward silence descended, punctuated only by the clinking of our cups. I didn't know that side of him, but I wanted him to see mine, not the man who would agree to everything. He finished his coffee, stood up, and said, "Think about what I said." I nodded. "I'll be around." He agreed slowly, as if already expecting this response but hating to hear it. Then he left, his boots echoing on the floor. I was left with a knot of tension easing in my chest. Sheila approached, leaning against the counter. "That's your old man," I said, scrubbing a mug harder than necessary. "He's complicated." She smiled wryly. "Seems like you handled it well." Then she added, "Class starts today. P told me. One of his friends has a gallery. Bring your supplies." I mumbled a confirmation. My head was still spinning from my father's visit, but it wasn't the end of the world. I had built something there and he couldn't take that away from me. Later, I went to class and showed my portfolio. A collection of images had led me to a specific photograph, one capturing a wave crashing against rocks. "This one has power," I declared. A small, local exhibition was proposed. a chance for my work to be displayed. My heart hammered. To be showcased, exposed in a gallery felt daunting, but Sheila, with a smile, gently nudged my arm. "Try it," she urged. My head nodded, still reeling. Exhausted, I retreated to my room. Scattered across the bed were my photographs. I selected a few: the crashing wave, the fisherman, an aged family portrait from a birthday celebration, a testament to both change and continuity. Roots and wings, I mused, pondering the intertwined yet distinct threads of my past and present. As I packed, a message from Sophia arrived. "Dad's back," she wrote succinctly. "You're different," he had stated. My reply, "Indeed." Her response was silent, but unnecessary. My father's shadow had passed, yet I remained standing. This exhibition was a leap into the unknown, my gamble. I wouldn't revert to who I once was. Grabbing my camera, I departed. The following day, I aimed to photograph the docks at sunrise, both the stillness and the constant motion. The gallery opening arrived sooner than anticipated, and I was unprepared. 3 months prior, my role involved serving coffee and deflecting the family's perceived criticisms. Now, I moved through a converted warehouse, an art space, my photographs affixed to the walls. A small local affair it was, simple chairs, simple paintings, yet it felt monumental. My portfolio rested there, the fisherman hauling nets, the wave crashing on the shore, and that vintage family portrait. Everything held a tangible tension and purpose. Roots and wings became indelibly etched in my mind after my father's visit. Sheila's urging and Paul's support were crucial to this endeavor. Now sweat trickled as I awaited attendees. The venue swiftly filled. Dock workers in pristine shirts, art enthusiasts in stylish glasses, and cafe regulars mingled. Sheila materialized, a grin spreading across her face, leading a contingent of classmates. "Look at you, important one," she teased, patting my arm. I grumbled, yet felt pleased at her presence. Paul, busy, circulated, pointing to my work. I leaned against the wall, observing the curious viewers examining my art. A man in a plaid shirt paused before the wave photograph, pondered the force depicted, and moved on. I was speechless, a sudden sense of accomplishment washing over me. They saw what I had created. The evening flew by. Chatter and low-cost wine replaced quietude. Noise escalated with time. A woman, a colleague of Paul's, identified by a clipboard, purchased the fisherman image on the spot, paying $50. This marked my first income from photography. I pocketed the cash, anticipating its disappearance. Sheila raised a disposable cup towards me. "Told you you possessed talent." I shrugged, but internally, vibrated with exhilaration. It was mine. A gesture of support, not a solution for anyone else's issues. Simply me. Absent from the gathering were family members. A slight disappointment, yet it didn't mar the evening's ambiance. Exiting later, I breathed in the city's pulse. Horns, waves, a drunken shout from a nearby corner. Leaning against a wall, I contemplated my experiences. The bus ride out of town, a connection to my father, the coffee I served him. It felt like it had been years, not months. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Sophie. She wrote, "Heard you're doing well. Dad and Mom are trying the Hawaiian trip again, taking the kids this time. Strange without you." I stared at the screen, picturing them. My father, likely complaining about luggage. My mother, concerned about the grandchildren. Mark and Lisa, probably still upset about the first trip's mishap. But they had figured things out, or nearly so. I replied, "Glad they're going, I'm doing fine here." A thumbs up emoji, and that was that. The urge to abandon everything and return had vanished. Sophie's messages previously had made me question, wonder if I shouldn't stay. Not now. They had moved on, and so had I. The gallery door swung open. Sheila peeked her head out. "Hiding out? Come on, the pee is wrapping up." I rushed back inside, just in time to hear the closing remarks of his presentation. He pointed at me. "Felix's work has a real something to it," he declared. I stood there, a little awkward, unaccustomed to the attention. The event quickly concluded, and I helped stack the chairs, still feeling the adrenaline course through me. Once the space emptied, I grabbed my camera and left. It was late, but I wasn't tired in the least. I walked towards the beach, the city fading behind me until only I and the sea remained. The pre-dawn gray sky, restless waves. I set up my tripod, framed a wave about to break, pressed the shutter, and held my breath as it crashed on the rocks. The image, sharp and vibrant, filled the screen. I sat there on the rocks, watching the light awaken the scene, a sense of quietude settling over me. It wasn't complete peace, but it was close. I thought of the family photo hanging in the gallery, a stern-faced father, a strained smile on the mother, me, almost cut off from the frame. That had always been a part of me, the life I'd given to them, the years I'd dedicated to them. But now, this, the camera, the city, the wave, this was my choice. They were likely soaring to Hawaii or heading to the airport, and I felt no resentment. They built something without me, and I built my own. There were still ties, perhaps, but I didn't need to repair them. The sun now broke over the horizon, and I gathered my things, my boots scratching against the rocks. Later, I'd go to the cafe, make some coffee, maybe show Sheila the new photo. The P had mentioned another exhibit, and I was already thinking about what I'd photograph next. The city spread before me, raw and noisy, and I moved forward, my camera slung over my shoulder. I was no longer the one who ran away, nor the one who lingered too long. I was simply me.